Day 1. So you crash-landed on Mars. Congratulations! You are now the proud sole inhabitant of a frozen, toxic, irradiated desert located 140 million miles from anyone who actually cares about you. Your spaceship is a smoldering pile of scrap. Since Mars has no magnetic field, cosmic radiation is currently microwaving your DNA. You need to walk to an underground lava tube before the negative 80-degree night freezes you solid. You start walking. Day 5. You made it to the lava tube. You have successfully avoided freezing to death and turning into a cosmic mutant. Great job! Now you are dying of thirst. Humans are needy creatures. There are no lakes on Mars, but the dirt itself contains about 2% frozen water. You just have to figure out how to get it out. Day 10. You spent 5 days building a makeshift oven out of spaceship scrap and an emergency heating coil. You shovel hundreds of pounds of red soil into the oven, bake it at 400 degrees, and rig up a plastic tarp to catch the condensation. After 24 hours of back-breaking manual labor, you produce exactly 1 shot glass of muddy brown water. It tastes like iron and failure. Day 15. 2 weeks in. Your emergency space rations are completely gone. If you don't start producing calories, you will starve to death in roughly 20 days. It is time to become a farmer. You found a few raw potatoes in the wreckage. You bring heavy loads of Martian soil into the cave, but there is a massive problem. Day 20. Martian dirt is actively trying to kill you. It is packed with high levels of perchlorates, a highly toxic chemical used in rocket fuel. If you plant a potato in that, it will die. If you eat a potato grown in that, you will die. You spend 5 days soaking the heavy mud in your precious water reserves, draining the toxins away layer by layer. Day 25. Once the dirt is safe, you realize it has absolutely no biological nutrients. Mars dirt is completely sterile. To make the potatoes grow, you have to fertilize the soil yourself. Yes, that means you are forced to use your own personal biologically active human waste. You mix it into the red mud by hand. You try not to think about it. You are now the greatest botanist on the planet. Day 30. Your potato plants have actually sprouted. Tiny green leaves are pushing through the toxic mud. For a brief, fleeting moment, you feel a shred of hope. You sit in your folding chair and stare at the tiny plant. It is the only other living thing on this entire floating rock. Mars, however, hates hope. Day 35. A global dust storm hits the planet. These storms are massive, violent, and can cover the entire globe for weeks. The wind outside is howling at 60 miles per hour, kicking up so much thick red dust that the sun is completely blotted out. The sky turns pitch black. Your solar panels are now entirely useless. Day 40. You retreat deep into the lava tube. The temperature drops rapidly as your batteries die. You wrap yourself in crinkly silver emergency space foil, sitting on the rocky floor in absolute terrifying darkness. The only light you have is a tiny flashlight. You point it at your sad potato plant, praying it doesn't freeze. Day 45. The storm finally clears. The sun comes back. You go outside to sweep a foot of red dust off your solar panels. It takes all day, and your spacesuit is permanently stained orange. The power kicks back on, and your heater whirs to life. But the psychological damage of sitting in the dark has been done. Day 50. The isolation is setting in. You have not heard another human voice in 50 days. The human brain is not designed for this level of absolute crushing loneliness. It begins to compensate. You start talking to yourself. Then you start talking to the equipment. Then you start looking at the rocks differently. Day 55. You have picked up a jagged, slightly reddish rock from the floor of the cave. You name him Steve. Steve is a terrible listener, but he is incredibly reliable. You find yourself explaining the entire plot of the Star Wars movies to Steve. He doesn't say much, but you appreciate his stoic presence. Day 60. You get into a heated argument with Steve about whether a hot dog is a sandwich. When Steve doesn't answer, you yell at him and throw him across the cave. 10 minutes later, you feel incredibly guilty. You apologize to Steve and bring him back to your sleeping cot. You are rapidly losing your mind. Day 65.
You realize that if you stay in the cave with Steve, you will go completely insane. You need a project. You decide to prep the emergency electric rover. You are going to take it out for a spin to scout a nearby crater for a potential subsurface ice deposit. Finding pure ice would change everything. Day 70. You charge the rover, pack your suit, and drive out into the massive, empty desert. For the first time in months, you feel like an explorer. You're cruising over the dunes, making actual scientific progress. The Martian landscape rolls by, and you actually smile. Then, you hear a loud, metallic crunch. Day 75. You hit a sharp, jagged rock hidden under the sand. You get out to inspect the damage. The front left tire is completely shredded. The suspension is bent beyond repair. You check the rover's storage compartment and realize there is no spare tire. You now possess a $2 million six-wheeled paperweight. Day 80. You are 5 miles away from your cave. The oxygen in your suit is dropping. You have no choice but to abandon the rover and start the long, humiliating walk back to your lava tube. Every step in the heavy sand is agonizing. Steve is not going to believe this. Day 85. You make it back to the cave with 2% oxygen left. You collapse on the floor, exhausted and defeated. You look over at Steve the Rock. You secretly blame him for the entire rover disaster. You refuse to speak to him for 3 days. Day 90. It is harvest day. You dig into the fertilized mud to claim your prize. You pull out a potato. It is roughly the size of a golf ball, lumpy and slightly gray. You don't have the energy to cook it. You bite into the raw, unseasoned Martian potato. It is the best thing you have ever tasted. Day 95. A dark, depressing routine has completely taken over your life. You wake up, you shovel toxic dirt, you bake the dirt for a single sip of water, you eat a bite of a raw potato, you stare at the cave wall, you go to sleep. You are a ghost haunting a dead planet. Day 100. You made it. 100 days. Rescue is not coming tomorrow. The absolute earliest a ship could reach you from Earth is 8 months from now. But looking out at the vast, empty red horizon, you take another bite of your terrible potato. You give a slow, deadpan thumbs up to the empty universe. Subscribe.